Hi, do I have the court on the phone? Yes, hi. May I speak to your designated and named ADA coordinator? I don't think we have an ADA coordinator. What is this in reference to? Yes, well, I'm an ADA advocate and I have a client that is going to be in court coming up in about 2 weeks. And I normally coordinate with an ADA coordinator in the court so that I can make sure that my client gets their ADA access and the proper accommodations. And the court is mandated and required by the U.S. Department of Justice under Title II of the ADA to have a named and designated ADA coordinator. No, the judge doesn't make those decisions. You see, under the Americans with Disability Act, under Title II, whatever my client requires and whatever accommodation my client needs, they're supposed to give them. It's not something that they can grant or deny. These are accommodations, and these are federally protected class members under the Americans with Disability Act. So I don't understand why you don't have an ADA coordinator. I don't know. I've never heard of something like this before. I just don't know. Are you a lawyer? Are you an attorney? Do you have a license to practice law? No, I am a multifaceted expert, national advocate. I have credentials as an expert in human rights and also a forensic expert in the Americans with Disability Act. I'm also certified as a domestic violence and child abuse advocate, and I own my own nonprofit organization, which is a 501c4 organization with a multifaceted expert team that is nothing like an attorney. As a matter of fact, we are a completely distinct role than an attorney. We are an accommodation to our clients. Well, ma'am, I don't know how to help you. Just put it in writing. Can you put it in writing? Well, yes, I do an entire tailored letter with all the federal codifications and the accommodations necessary specific to my client, and it is in writing. Without the ADA coordinator, who would I send that to? It's supposed to go to the ADA coordinator so she and I, or he and I, can work together and make sure that my client gets the access that my client needs. So who would I send that to? Well, I mean, I guess you can send it to the clerk of the court. So go ahead and send it to clerk 123 of the court at court.gov.gov. You got that? Okay, well, I guess thank you very much. I will submit that. Well, I'll have my client submit that. And hopefully we'll get what we need, because court is coming up in 2 weeks, and this is normally, pre-prepped so that everything is in place for the client so that they're not in trauma during court and they have equal access. But I will get that letter right out as soon as possible, and we'll see what happens. All rise. I am the Honorable, well, I'm kind of dishonorable, but anyway, I am the Honorable Judge Nunya. Business. Anyway, this is the case of Smith versus Smith. And can you please tell me who this Francesca Amato is? Yes, Your Honor. I am an Americans with Disability Act forensic expert and advocate here for my client, Mrs. Paula Smith. And I have submitted a letter with all the accommodations that my client needs, and that's why I'm here virtually today. Well, I'm going to deny all of the accommodations. And Miss Amato, are you a licensed attorney? I am a national expert Americans with Disability Act advocate. And do you have any licensed attorneys here in this court? Because if you do, they're not supposed to be licensed. Well, they're certified bar members. Are you a certified bar member, Miss Amato? No. Again, I am a national expert Americans with Disability Act advocate. I'm here as an aid and assistance to my client to ensure that my client has all their ADA accommodations necessary to be here today to proceed. And a letter has been drafted and the federal codifications are on it. Under 28 CFR 160B for effective communication, and also to inform the court that you are without immunity under 42 USC 12202 if you do not allow these accommodations within the court. You also don't have a named and designated ADA coordinator as required under 28 CFR 35.107. And my client right now is in trauma just because of the fact that we're sitting here arguing instead of you just allowing what is already her federally protected rights. I don't understand why this court is not versed in the Americans with Disability Act and why it just does whatever it pleases. You wouldn't do this if somebody wheeled in with a wheelchair. Would you deny those rights or pull the wheels off possibly, or make the client leave the wheelchair in the back of the room and then let the client slide across the floor if they were unable to walk to their seat? Would you do that? Well, Miss Amato, you're going to have to leave our courtroom today, my courtroom today. You're going to have to leave because I don't understand a word that you're saying. I mean, my brain just doesn't work that way, first of all. And I think this is a bunch of gibberish and it makes no sense to me. And this is my court. So I'm just going to have you leave the courtroom, and that's that. And you can take it up with somebody else, okay? So guys, this doesn't always happen. It happens probably less than 10% across the country. Most of the courts that I deal with are respecting the ADA. When I do have these crazy issues, I do report non-compliance for my clients to the United States Department of Justice, and they are auditing the courts. Did you know that the courts would be fined $75,000 per violation each time they violate? And if they continue to violate, it goes upwards of $150,000 per violation. That is the reason why it is important to have an ADA advocate there. You may feel that sometimes something like this happens, it may feel very defeating, but it really isn't, because we have a paper trail and we continue to take it up the food chain, so to speak, until we get the results that we need. I have most of the courts in the states that I do this, which is all the states, are respectfully not denying ADA accommodations. I have them in writing each time, but these are some of the ignorant arguments that I have to deal with, and it really baffles me, and it really blows my mind, because, you know, they're supposed to have their bar certifications, they're supposed to have, you know, their legal degrees and so on and so forth. You know that they have to understand it, which just proves to me that they intentionally violate and are very corrupt. Now, that's just one aspect. That would be the Americans with Disability Act, but that doesn't cover like some of the things that I see when they violate the Articles of Human Rights, when they violate the Constitution. And that's why I stand on these rights, because the bottom line comes down to, there are advocates out there saying that we don't have a constitution, and there's a false teaching out there that we don't have one. And you have to have your constitutionally protected rights everywhere you go in this country. Wherever you put your feet is where your rights remain. Within the reason of a private home, there might be some certain things that, you know, it doesn't, it's not protected, okay? But anywhere else, especially in public, and you have the right to film. Also, you have the right to film any public servant, and that was already passed in 2010. Well, I don't want to say passed. These are rights that have been enforced, okay, and that was by the Supreme Court. And web access is really important to understand. Virtual access within the courts for people with disabilities, invisible disabilities, that they cannot adjudicate certain things like PTSD or depression or anxiety or just trauma. You are entitled to your ADA accommodations, and that's what we draft and we tailor for our clients. But yeah, this is sort of like a day in my life and what I go through in some courts. And thankfully, like I said, I would say literally probably well over 90% don't act this foolish. But I do have the ones that do, and I just kind of wanted to show it to you guys so you understood. But if you do need help, you can book a talk with me at punishedthe4beingaparent.com. And my scheduling coordinator will get you scheduled as soon as possible. We are in demand, but we will get you scheduled as soon as possible and get you going through the process. Thank you, and have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you.